As you watch this video, an epic battle is taking place between three cryptocurrencies with a shared history. Ethereum, Cardano, and Polkadot are all competing for dominance as the go-to smart contract blockchain. Ethereum is currently in the lead, which makes sense given that Cardano and Polkadot have not achieved their final forms. While Cardano has yet to roll out its smart contract functionality, Polkadot is ready to rumble and will soon begin selecting the projects that will be connecting to its blockchain. There are nearly 400 projects vying for limited spots on Polkadot, and this has left many wondering which of these projects will be the lucky winners of Polkadot's upcoming Parachain Slot Auctions. After all, the cryptocurrencies belonging to the projects that secure these Parachain slots are likely to see an unprecedented amount of gains when they go live. Today, I'm going to explain the Parachain auction process and which three projects I think will be securing a Parachain slot on the Polkadot blockchain. Before we commence, there are a couple of disclaimers I need to dispense. Firstly, I am not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video should be considered financial or investment advice. Secondly, you should know that Polkadot makes up about 10% of my crypto holdings. If you want to know what the rest of my portfolio pie looks like, be sure to stick around until the end of the video. If this is your first time visiting the Coin Bureau, my name is Guy, and it is a pleasure to meet you. On this channel, I craft some of the highest quality crypto content you'll ever find. Whether it's crypto news or coin reviews, I bring you the facts instead of clickbait heart attacks. In place of ads, you'll find timestamps in the video timeline that you can use to get a sense of what's coming next and move to the sections that suit you best. If this sounds like a sweet deal, well then, subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell so you get a heads up when the next video hits the tube. Okay, ready to rumble? Me too. Let's start by reviewing what Polkadot Parachain auctions are, how they work, and why they exist. As many of you will know, Polkadot is a smart contract compatible blockchain that launched in May last year. Polkadot was founded by Ethereum co-founder Dr. Gavin Wood to, quote, deliver on the promises that Ethereum could not. Now, this statement is a reference to Ethereum 2.0, which was supposed to be implemented shortly after the Ethereum mainnet went live in 2015. Given that Gavin is the former Chief Technology Officer of the Ethereum Foundation, it should come as no surprise that Polkadot's architecture is eerily similar to Ethereum 2.0's. Polkadot's core blockchain is called the relay chain, which uses a proof-of-stake consensus mechanism. The relay chain itself does not support smart contracts and only handles a handful of transaction types, namely those related to staking. Polkadot gets its smart contract functionality from the additional blockchains which plug into the relay chain. These additional blockchains are called parachains and parathreads, and they rely on the relay chain for consensus, interoperability, and security. Parachains can be thought of as being permanent additions to the relay chain, whereas parathreads are more like pay-as-you-go blockchains. Each of these parachains and parathreads can only run one process, i.e., a single dApp or function, and there is a maximum of 100 slots available on the relay chain. This limited real estate means there needs to be some way of choosing which projects get a slot. This is where Parachain Slot Auctions come in. Parachain Slot Auctions are like regular auctions with one key difference. Instead of determining the winner based on their bid at the end of an auction, the winner is picked based on their bid when a random snapshot of all bids was taken during the auction. This is to prevent the last-minute bidding wars you see on websites like eBay. Once the Polkadot team has finished testing Parachain and Parathread connections and interoperability, Parachain Slot Auctions will be kickstarted by DOT holders in a community vote. Parachain Slot Auctions will take place on Kusama first, and according to Gavin Wood, these auctions could begin as early as next month. As far as I can tell, slots will be auctioned off one at a time, and each Parachain slot auction will last for 2 weeks. During this 2-week period, projects hoping to secure a Parachain slot on Polkadot will place their bids using DOT. Whichever project bid the highest amount of DOT when the random snapshot is taken at the end of the auction, will win the Parachain slot and get plugged into the relay chain shortly afterwards. The interesting thing is that the DOT they use to secure this Parachain slot is not sold. It is bonded until the lease period for that parachain is over. It's at this point the project can either sell that bonded DOT or participate in another Parachain slot auction to keep their parachain. Lease periods on parathreads are 6 months in length, and a project can secure leases of up to 2 years in each Parachain slot auction. Naturally, not every single project wanting to plug into Polkadot will have the DOT required to secure a Parachain slot. This is why Polkadot has developed a unique crowdfunding mechanism called a Parachain loan offering. This is where DOT holders can loan their coins to their favorite Polkadot projects during the 2-week Parachain slot auction they're participating in. In exchange, the Polkadot project can give its supporters its native tokens or other cryptocurrencies like stablecoins if they win the Parachain slot auction. The fine print on PLOs is that any DOT loaned to Polkadot projects that secure a Parachain slot is locked until their Parachain lease period ends. This means any delegated DOT could be locked up for up to 2 years. Now, that could be a pretty big ask, since it means you won't be able to sell that DOT on the open market during that time if the price goes parabolic. However, if you loan your DOT to the right project, the tokens you get in return for doing so could bring much larger gains than if you'd sold that DOT instead. This brings me to the first promising Polkadot project looking for a parachain, and that's Acala Network. Acala Network was founded in October 2019 by Brian Chen, Betty Chen, Fuyao Zhang, and Ritao Su. I'm sorry if I mangled anyone's name there, folks. Of all the Polkadot projects out there, Acala is the most likely to secure a Parachain slot. For starters, Fuyao is the founder of the Polka Wallet mobile wallet, and Riato is one of the core contributors to Substrate, the language used to code Polkadot and its plugin chains. In June 2020, Acala Network received a grant from the Web3 Foundation which develops Polkadot. Acala Network is also one of the few Polkadot projects Gavin Wood follows on Twitter. Most importantly, Acala is looking to bring some serious value and utility to the Polkadot ecosystem. Acala brands itself as Polkadot's DeFi hub and consists of 2 core protocols. The first is a decentralized stablecoin protocol called Honza, which makes it possible to mint a crypto-collateralized US dollar stablecoin called AUSD. The second Acala protocol is a tokenized staking liquidity protocol called HOMA, which makes it possible to use a tokenized version of staked DOT called LDOT in DeFi protocols on Polkadot. Acala has also developed a cross-chain DEX that will feature wrapped assets such as RenBTC. If you're unfamiliar with RenBTC, I strongly suggest watching my recent video about Ren when you get a moment. You can find it up there in the top right. If you've already tried looking up Acala's ACA token on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko, you probably didn't find anything. That's because ACA will not be available until Acala has secured a Parachain slot. Acala co-founder Betty Chen noted in a recent presentation that Acala hopes to crowdfund its bid in the Parachain slot auction and will ensure it gets a parathread slot if the Parachain auction fails. In terms of tokenomics, ACA will have a maximum supply of 100 million, and 12% of this supply will be allocated to those who participate in the Parachain loan offering in proportion to the DOT they've delegated. I should note that an earlier version of the Acala white paper notes that the team can mint new ACA if necessary. The new wording states that ACA is subject to, quote, redenomination. Over time, only about 37% of ACA's total supply will end up in the hands of the community through various incentives and initiatives. Interestingly enough, Acala is only looking to hold a Parachain slot for about 6 years. After that, it hopes to migrate to its own native blockchain that will be interoperable with Polkadot instead of being plugged into it. It's not clear what this means for Karura, Acala's sister network, which is set to launch on Polkadot's canary network, Kusama. Karura will have its own native token called KAR, K-A-R, which will have the same tokenomics as ACA. Karura will serve as a dry run for Acala's launch on Polkadot. If you're interested in participating in Karura's Parachain loan offering on Kusama, I'll leave a link to an article in the description that will help you do just that. If you'd rather try your luck with a Polkadot project looking for a parachain that already has a token on the market, look no further than Phala Network. Phala Network was founded at the end of 2018 by Hang Yin, Marvin Tong, Zhe Wang, and Jun Jiang. This quartet all have experience in senior positions at some of the world's largest tech companies, including Google and Tencent. Fun fact, Hang is also the founder of Bitcoin Gold, a fork of Bitcoin that can be mined with a regular computer. Like Acala, Phala received a grant from the Web3 Foundation in the summer of 2019 and is known to be one of Gavin Wood's favorite Polkadot projects. In a sentence, Phala Network is a privacy-preserving decentralized database with smart contract functionality. It uses Trusted Execution Environments, or TEEs, to preserve user privacy. For those unfamiliar, TEEs are used in everything from smartphones to video games and make it possible to perform computations on encrypted data. Another cryptocurrency project called Secret Network uses TEEs in its smart contracts as well, and you can learn about that by using the link in the top right. The Phala network consists of 3 core protocols. The first is Web3 Analytics, a decentralized alternative to Google Analytics that gives control of data back to the user and lets them share their data with sites and services they interact with in a private manner. The second is PDM, a protocol that adds privacy and interoperability to transactions on Facebook's upcoming, recently renamed cryptocurrency project, Diem. I'll leave a link to my video about that one if you want to learn more. Phala's fourth protocol is their dark pool and dark wallet pair on Kusama, which makes it possible to trade assets on the Kusama blockchain with complete privacy. In December last year, Acala and Phala successfully demoed the first cross-chain transactions for Polkadot Parachains. Unlike Acala, Phala's PHA token started trading on the open market as an ERC20 token in September last year. Phala has an initial supply of 1 billion, and their tokenomics white paper suggests there will be an annual inflation rate of about 5% per year after the Phala mainnet launches. 15% of Phala's initial supply was sold in a private sale. Just 5% of Phala's supply was kept by the team, and the remainder has been allocated to the community in various manners, mainly mining rewards for nodes who process private transactions on Phala. It is worth pointing out that only 9% of Phala's total supply has been earmarked for participants in Phala's Parachain loan offerings on both Kusama and Polkadot. That said, a recent Twitter poll by Phala Network suggests that they're playing with the idea of introducing a separate token for their Kusama debut. This would not only make more sense, it would also make it easy to calculate what your returns are likely to be using the Phala token currently on the market. I think it's logical to assume this second token on Kusama would have a similar valuation. Unfortunately, Phala Network does not seem to be as close to securing a parachain as Acala. This is because they've yet to complete their pre-mainnet stage, titled Darth Vader, at the time of shooting. Until that stage has been completed, it's unlikely that Phala will be rushing to secure a parachain slot on Kusama or Polkadot. The real deal would be a Polkadot project that's ready for a parachain slot and also has a token being traded on the open market. Say, that sounds like Litentry. And, full disclosure, I hold it in my personal portfolio, so you guys need to be aware of that. Litentry was founded in April 2019 by an information technology expert called Hanwen Cheng. Like the devs at the Phala network, Hanwen has a close connection to Polkadot because of his previous employment at PHA Tokenomics, a for-profit software company headed by none other than Polkadot founder Gavin Wood. In case you didn't know, PHA Tokenomics is actually the company commissioned by the Web3 Foundation to develop Polkadot and Kusama. Speaking of the Web3 Foundation, Litentry also received a Web3 Foundation grant as part of the same funding wave as Phala network. Litentry has one hell of a unique value proposition, and that's cross-chain decentralized identity management. In other words, Litentry will make it possible to do things like gain gravitas in governance or build up a credit score that can be used to borrow with less collateral in a private and trustless manner. Like Phala network, Litentry has 3 core products and protocols. The first is the Litentry Registrar Protocol, which makes it possible to verify unique on-chain identities in a trustless manner. The second is the Litentry Runtime Protocol, which allows you to link accounts cross-chain into a single identity. And the third is the Litentry Authenticator mobile app, which will make it possible to use on-chain identities for off-chain purposes. This barely scratches the surface of what Litentry has to offer, so I recommend you get the whole story, and you guys know where to get that good stuff. Now, Litentry's native token has the ticker LIT. Yeah, it's lit. Anywho, LIT is currently trading alongside the FAR token on exchanges like Binance. Like ACA, LIT has an initial supply of 100 million and will have an inflation target of 5% per year starting sometime in 2025. Also, like ACA, LIT's tokenomics documents suggest that the supply of LIT could be modified before then under certain conditions. LIT exists as both an ERC20 token on Ethereum and a BEP20 token on the Binance Smart Chain. That's probably because the LIT token entered the open market via the Binance Launchpad in early February this year. LIT's Launchpad distribution saw 3% of LIT's initial supply allocated to those staking BNB, BUSD, and DOT in the Binance Launchpad. Another 20% of LIT's initial supply was sold between 2 private sales, 15% was allocated to the team, 17% has been reserved for the Litentry Foundation, and a whopping 45 million LIT are on the table for lenders in Parachain Slot Auctions. Unlike Acala and Phala, Litentry has not concretely detailed how and when they'll be engaging in Parachain Slot Auctions, though their recent roadmap hints that it will happen sometime next quarter. Going through Litentry's documentation also gave me the impression that they aren't all that interested in launching on Kusama. Oddly enough, a proposal tabled by Litentry to provide identity services to users on the Kusama blockchain was recently passed by KSM holders, and that aforementioned roadmap suggests Polkadot will be next. If Litentry will be providing identity services to Kusama and Polkadot, I think it's very unlikely that they won't be allocated a Parachain slot at some point. This is because of a new class of parachains detailed called, quote, common good parachains. Polkadot detailed so-called common good parachains in a fairly recent blog post. The rationale behind common good parachains can be summarized in a quote from said blog post. Quote, Polkadot's on-chain governance system can also allocate parachain slots in cases where it would benefit the network as a whole without requiring a bond in perpetuity. The Polkadot team highlights 2 types of blockchains that could be allocated a parachain slot on the basis of governance alone. The first type of common good blockchains are any system-level chains which would provide functions such as governance. Put simply, it's possible that a parachain slot could be allocated to a blockchain that handles elaborate governance processes for the entire Polkadot ecosystem. The second type of common good blockchains are public utility chains, which can have their own tokens but must rely on KSM or DOT in some way, shape, or form. Bridges which make it possible for Polkadot to interoperate with non-substrate-based chains is one of the examples given here, and something tells me that this public utility designation could also be extended to Acala, Phala, and certainly to Litentry. If you want to try and figure out which other projects are likely to get parachain slots on Kusama or Polkadot for whatever reason, I'll leave a link in the description to a document which details the projects that have received grants from the Web3 Foundation. Beyond that, you'll have to do your own research. How, you might ask? Well, I happen to know of a certain YouTuber who has a guide which may be in the top right. If you're anything like me, at some point you've probably asked yourself why Polkadot has a limit on parachain slots to begin with. After all, if there were no limits to how many projects could plug into the relay chain, these parachain slot auctions wouldn't be necessary, and the Polkadot ecosystem would be much larger as well, right? Well, not exactly. If there were no limits on how many parachains and parathreads the relay chain could handle, the growing number of different transactions from a growing number of different dApps would eventually make the entire Polkadot ecosystem unusable. I don't have time to explain why here, but I'll leave an interesting video in the description by a DeFi YouTuber that does just that, if you're interested. I am personally very bullish on Acala, Phala, and Litentry, but I also have my fair share of comments and concerns. For starters, the tokenomics could be better for all three projects. Phala is the outlier here because of how much FAR has been allocated to the community. But the problem with Phala is that the introduction of a second token for Kusama could split the value of the network further down the line. Even though Acala also has 2 tokens, I don't think they will have this problem, since neither of the 2 tokens has launched, and it has been long known that Kusama and Polkadot will be getting their own tokens. It also really doesn't help that there's a lot of conflicting information when it comes to things like inflation, and whether these teams have the power to mint and burn their tokens as they please. This suggests an alarming degree of centralization that probably won't be solved by plugging into the relay chain. That said, there's no question that these projects offer some serious value to Polkadot, and the fact that they're all on the good side of Gavin Wood certainly helps too. After all, he's the founder and one of 3 members of the Web3 Foundation, which has been dishing out all these grants. Last I checked, Gavin also has a significant amount of voting power to support the projects he believes to be in favour of the common good. As the saying goes, you can be right or you can make money. I choose the latter. If you learned something new today, let me know by flicking that like button. If you want to learn something new tomorrow, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ping that notification bell if you haven't already. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram to fill up on crypto memes and take a look behind the scenes at the Bureau. If you're a TikTok person, well, you can now follow my TikTok sensei. Her name is Macy, and if you haven't heard of her before, then it means you've missed some of my recent videos. You can take an extra step to stop that from happening by joining the Coin Bureau Insider Telegram channel, where I give you daily updates about the crypto markets in addition to what's going on here at Coin Bureau HQ. If you feel like you can't keep up with the crypto market, subscribe to my weekly newsletter to get top crypto tips served to you on a silver, spam-free platter. It's also where you'll find the rest of my personal cryptocurrency portfolio. If you want to know where to get sweet apparel like this, then head on over to the Coin Bureau merch store and check out the other nifty designs I've put together. Every purchase goes towards supporting the channel and brings me one step closer to my goal of world domination. A good cause, if ever there was one. You can find links to my socials, newsletter, and merch in the video description. And you'll find me in the next video. Take care till I see you there.